The Droid You Are Looking For Canada presents the video game Vault.
There are only 3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine. Barry Burton. Rebecca Chambers. Albert Wesker. Resident Evil.
What do you say about a game that revolutionized what survival horror is? Let me take you back to the late 90s when this little gem came out. That's right, Resident Evil for the original PlayStation 1. Quick sideline story on how this came to be for me. I was actually looking to rent the video game, I think it was Unloaded or Reloaded, which was a top shooter where you just fucking kill nonchalant shit. That's not what I rented. Now keep in mind, I just got my PlayStation 1. I was like, fuck, I gotta play this goddamn game. So I go down to this place called Bonanza Video. If you're local, you understand what I'm talking about. It's a typical little video store back in the day when tapes were there. Yes, tapes. No DVDs, tapes. But anyways, I digress. I rented this game called Resident Evil, and for some goddamn reason, that's what I thought it was. And they used to have these little, the cases were big and black and bulky, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, so I rented this game for 2 nights, which turned into 30 days. Yeah, imagine that, 30 days of late charges. Why? Because there's so much you can do in this game, and there's 2 different storylines. So you start off as a Bravo member named Chris or Jill. You're looking at the whereabouts of an original team called Alpha Team. I know, original. And you go to this mansion in Raccoon City. Getting the hints yet? Yes, this video game existed well before the movie franchise with Mila Jovovich, before she ruined it all. Now, I like the movies, but honestly, nowhere near where the video game was, or where the video game will ever be. Moving on. So you end up going into this mansion, and then you slowly start uncovering that shit's awry. Things are different. It doesn't make sense. You find out the fucking mansion is full of zombies. So now you're spending all this time going through this mansion. But wait, there's more. Not only are you dealing with the undead, which in my opinion was the original bar set by the undead in video games, period, you now have to figure out puzzles? Yeah, puzzles. And they weren't easy puzzles either. Yeah, you had a couple of them, they basically gave it to you. You ended up doing a lot of backtracking, and you did a lot of travel in the game. You literally end up running across the mansion first floor at least 7 or 8 times. Doesn't seem like a lot nowadays, but back in that day, especially with the loading screens, it could take you hours to get where you need to go. So ultimately, without spoiling the game for you, even though it's a classic, I strongly suggest that you grab this game and play it. Especially anything before Resident Evil 4 is considered survival horror, where you were terrified to play the fucking game. Now, back in the mid-2000s when the GameCube came out, they remastered this game called Resident Evil, they just called it Resident Evil, and they more or less gave it more of a scary feel to it. They introduced new zombies called the Crimson Head Zombie that you'll kill it, and then you'll come back to that stage later on, but it's still alive, and it'll jump up and it'll attack you, and it'll scare the fucking shit out of you. So, as you play along the game, you end up finding a crisscross, and there was a lot of betrayal happening between yourself and other characters. So, in terms of, is this game got replay value? I lost lots of money to this video game. It would make more sense for me to buy a video game, but at that time, we believed in renting. Okay? So I strongly suggest you pick up this gem, and if you don't, well, I'm telling you right now, you're not making a smart decision. This is a game that needs to be played by every gamer, hardcore gamer. Sit down and pay homage to this game. And with that said, there was no Alice. There was Jill. And there will always be Jill.
Game over, man! It's game over!
Thanks for listening to the Droids You Are Looking For podcast. Stay tuned for next week's podcast.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.